The Isdal Valley is a hostile place. It rests in the shadow of the largest of a group of mountains overlooking the Norwegian city of Bergen. Isdalen means the Ice Valley when translated literally, but locals call it Death Valley. On November 29, 1970, Death Valley would live up to its name. By the end of November, winter's grip was tightening. Torrential rain would soon be replaced by walls of snow, and the valley's vegetation struggled to absorb the few hours of daylight that remained in the ever-shortening days. Two young girls, hiking with their father, discovered what they believed to be an abandoned store mannequin. Upon closer examination, the group recoiled in horror and rushed back to Bergen for help. The girls had discovered the severely charred body of a woman who would become the focus of Norway's longest-lasting mystery, the Isdal Woman. The Isdal Woman's name was intended to be a stopgap while her true identity was investigated. This moniker has never been replaced. Despite international efforts by police, journalists, amateur detectives, and a popular podcast, the identity of the Isdal Woman remains as enigmatic as what is known about her. The story of the Isdal Woman isn't just a case of a murdered woman. It's a murder worthy of a thrilling murder mystery novel, or even a spy novel. When investigators arrived at the crime scene, they were perplexed by an abundance of clues. The woman was lying on her back with her limbs drawn into her torso. She had been burnt beyond recognition, yet there was no sign of a fire anywhere in the area. The woman was approximately 5 feet tall, between 25 and 40 years old, with long brownish black hair, a small round face, brown eyes, and small ears. At the time of her death, she wore her hair in a ponytail tied with a blue and white print ribbon. Rubber boots, a wool sweater, stockings, a purse, a matchbox, a ring, and 2 earrings were meticulously arranged in a ritualistic manner around her body. All of the labels on her garments had been removed or scrubbed clean. Small traces of gasoline could be detected on a hat that was placed beneath her body. Someone erased all traces of the Isdal Woman's identity. Coroners determined that her death was excruciating. Sooty deposits in her esophagus showed that she was alive when she was burned, and that she died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Her gastrointestinal analysis revealed that she had consumed up to 80 sleeping pills, most likely against her will. When police investigated 2 unclaimed suitcases in the Bergen train station's storage facility, they accidentally uncovered the first major clues in the cases. Norwegian police discovered a peculiar assortment of items, including spectacles whose non-prescription lenses bore fingerprints matching those of the Isdal Woman, clothing and shoes once again lacking labels, cosmetics, Danish and German currency, several maps and train schedules. In addition, they found a sheet of paper that appeared to contain a code. The page was covered with intentional combinations of numerals and letters, line after line of unintelligible text that may have pointed to hints as to the identity of this woman. In 1970, Norway was not exactly a favored tourist destination. Any person lacking a fair complexion and blonde hair would have stood out. The Isdal Woman's autopsy revealed that she had dark brown hair and dark brown eyes. Luckily, she did stand out. People in the community recalled her going shopping and staying at a hotel in the region in the weeks and months leading up to her death. Her trail led back to room 407 of the Hotel Horderheimen, where she had signed her name as Elizabeth Lienhauer. During the check-in, for which she would have had to present a valid passport, she said that she was born in Ostend, a coastal city in Belgium, in November 1945. Police sighed with relief. The Isdal Woman was now positively identified. The problem with this piece of evidence was that Elizabeth Lienhauer wasn't the woman's only name. The strange coded message found in her suitcase became the key element in her case. The Norwegian authorities soon deciphered the code, which was a travel itinerary in which she documented her travels throughout Europe. She had travelled extensively throughout Norway, staying in Oslo, Stavanger and Bergen, as well as in Europe, where she primarily stayed in Paris. Investigators cross-referenced her travels with hotel check-in cards and local witnesses' statements. They ultimately discovered that the Isdal woman had at least 8 distinct identities, each with a valid passport, under the names of Genevieve Lancier, a Belgian born in July 1945. Claudia Tielt, also born in Belgium in 1945. Claudia Nielsen was born in yet another Belgian city in April 1945. And Alexia Zahn-Mercier, a Slovenian born in November 1943. Norwegian police began hearing strange stories concerning the woman's behavior. People who knew her recalled that she had a heavy accent when she spoke English and that she smelled strongly of garlic. Hotel staff recalled her as an eccentric visitor who would reconfigure the furniture in her room and leave tables and chairs overturned in the hallways. She often dined alone, though she occasionally hosted male guests in heavy woolen jackets with whom she did not appear to get along. She regularly told hotel personnel that she was a traveling salesperson and antiquities dealer. According to one witness, she overheard the woman speaking German with a man in a Bergen hotel. Others who had met her had noted that she also spoke both Flemish and English with an accent. People who saw or interacted with her also remarked on her use of wigs. Why would a solitary woman travel so often and widely while trying to conceal her identity? One theory, and the most likely, could only be explained in context with the geopolitical situation of the 1960s and 70s. Late in 1970, when the charred remains of the Isdal woman were discovered, the Cold War was not at its height, but it had not yet thawed from decades of animosity. 2 years earlier, the Soviet Union and its Warsaw Pact allies violently thwarted Czechoslovakia's liberation efforts, eventually invading and annexing the nation. On the other side of the world, the United States was engaged in the Vietnam War, the bloodiest conflict in the country's effort to halt the spread of communism. Norway was at the forefront of the conflict between the two superpowers. Their proximity to the Soviet Union and opposition to communism painted a target on their back, and the country's leadership felt compelled to take preemptive measures should the Soviets decide that Norway would become the next Czechoslovakia. At this time, sophisticated weapons were being tested in secret in the port cities and military bases of Norway. The so-called Penguin missile was the top-of-the-line anti-ship missile designed to glide across the surface of the water at high subsonic speed while being guided by lasers. If Norway was effective in developing the missile, it would propel the country to the vanguard of military technology and significantly bolster its defenses against the Soviet Union. The Isdal woman traveled across Europe using numerous aliases and forged identification papers. She was carrying items that would alter her appearance. She visited Norway during a period of heightened tension, and when her itinerary was compared to military records, it appeared that she was following the Penguin missile from testing site to testing site. It turned out that the Isdal woman seemed to be a secret agent. Speculation that she was a spy was as old as the case itself. In 1970, just before Christmas, the Isdal investigation had lasted just over 3 weeks. The police conducted a press conference at the Bergen police station in which they refuted the newspaper's espionage hypotheses. No, I think I can safely state that there is no evidence of espionage. I consider it completely out of the question, said Chief of Crime Investigation Oskar Hordnes on 22nd of December 1970. Although government interference has been denied, there is an account of a military colonel telling an investigator to stop investigating the case as a murder with espionage ties. It has since been proven that the crime chief's general rejection of the espionage theory was not entirely valid. While he was speaking to the media, a very specific espionage investigation was underway. Nonetheless, for nearly 50 years, police representatives have either denied their involvement or refused to answer direct questions on this theory. In 2015, NRK correspondents were granted access to the Norwegian Police Surveillance Service's archives. The folder, holding nearly 140 pages of documents, revealed the opposite to what was told to the press. The Norwegian Police Surveillance Service had been involved in the investigation. The file revealed that the police station received a teleprinter message on December 22nd, the same day as the press conference. The message originated from the Security Division of the Armed Forces' highest command. The teleprinter message was marked secret, and in telegram language it read, "Woman found dead in Isdal, probably observed in Tananger in November while tests with penguin were carried out. The woman was also in Stavanger while corresponding tests were carried out in the month of April." In 1970, Henry Kjell Johansen was one of the penguin program's directors at the Danish Defence Research Institute. He took part in the test firings outside of Stavanger. "When we were going to shoot, a Soviet ship always appeared. Often it was fishing boats or cargo ships that had engine stops just outside the shooting range. We received notice of this from the Norwegian Navy, which was guarding the area. So it is clear that the Russians knew exactly when we were going to start the test firing," Johansen said. It was widely known that Norway was the first Western country to develop advanced naval missiles. But the performance and range of the missile was very interesting information for the Russians. They wanted to know how the missile worked and how they could fool it, he said. Johansen said that the Norwegian Navy occasionally reported discovering people who were extremely interested in the test firing sites. Was the Isdal Woman one of these interested people? It seems so. One of the Bergen Police's case investigators was in Stavanger when allegations surfaced that the Isdal Woman had seen the test firings. The information was promptly referred to the city's surveillance police for investigation. During a meeting with the administration of the Stavanger Sea Defence District, he learned that a local fisherman spotted who he believes to be the woman in the area where test firing vessels operated. When the investigator compared the woman's movements to those of the test firing vessels, a remarkable pattern emerged. The Penguin missile tests were carried out on the 24th of March in Bergen, in April in Stavanger, the 29th of October in Stavanger, on the 9th of November in Stavanger. At each of the test sites, the Isdal Woman was seen, and it appears that she arrived on the same days as the test firing start. If the Isdal Woman was a spy, who was she working for, and why was she killed? The most logical consensus is that she spied for the Soviets for reasons we've mentioned earlier. Another theory is that she was a member of the Israeli Mossad. She wouldn't be the only female Mossad operative to work in Norway. And this is where you can dust off your tinfoil hats and put them on. Sylvia Raphael, an extroverted and attractive Israeli-South African Mossad agent, was convicted of murder on the 1st of February 1974 for her role in the Lillehammer affair in Norway. Raphael was a member of a group of Mossad agents that erroneously murdered Moroccan-born waiter Ahmed Bouchiki on the 21st of July 1973 in Lillehammer. The agents claimed they mistook Bouchiki for Ali Hassan Salameh, the Black September leader responsible for planning the Munich Olympic massacre. How does this tie up to the Isdal Woman? The Isdal Woman appeared to be Mediterranean, told a photographer that she was South African, and was heard speaking Afrikaans, a Dutch-based language used by Caucasian South Africans. During the apartheid era, South African intelligence agencies worked tirelessly to circumvent international sanctions imposed on the country. In public, Israel supported these sanctions, but behind the scenes, things were quite different. New weapon systems piqued the interest of both the small Middle Eastern state and the South Africans. Could the Isdal Woman's interest in the Penguin missile project have been a joint intelligence operation between the two nations? What most likely happened to her? The most logical explanation is that she was murdered by an intelligence service. With various nations' intelligence services working on the Penguin project, We can take a pick of which one it was. Some have asked why her body was staged in such an elaborate way for the public to see. This type of staging was most likely a warning to the Soviets or Mossad as to what happens to spies when they are caught. The Cold War was a war of subtle hints and peacocking. Her murder was by no means subtle. It was a clear warning. Due to her numerous counterfeit passports, no one knew her actual name or place of birth. Even though fingerprints were recovered from the body, there were no matches in international databases. At least 20 years would pass before DNA was used as a forensic tool. It appeared that her identity would remain a mystery forever. However, recent advances in technology have cast new light on the enigma, bringing investigators closer to her identity. Based on the sleeping pills found in her stomach, investigators concluded that the woman killed herself, but conceded that the case cannot be considered closed until the body of the woman has been identified. They placed her body in a zinc-lined coffin to prevent decomposition. This may have been a stroke of brilliance by the authorities. As time goes by, technology evolves and older cases can be revisited and solved by new techniques. With these technological advancements, the Isdal Woman case was reopened in 2016. Decades after her enigmatic death in the Isdal Valley, investigators finally learned one piece of authentic, verifiable data. The Isdal Woman was born in 1930. Deeper analysis of the ratios of isotopes in her bone tissue revealed that she was likely born in southern Germany, although she grew up further north, possibly in the French-speaking region of Belgium. Analysis of the isotopic composition of her very distinctive teeth showed that she was born between 1926 and 1934, and had dental work performed in South America, East Asia, or Southern Europe. Although this is scant evidence, it is a step closer to solving the 56-year-old case. Will we ever know the true identity of the Isdal Woman? Spy or just a woman who wanted to end her life? The mystery of the Isdal Woman stays just that, for now, a mystery. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch brought to you by Bad Things.